tens of thousands of Israelis took to the streets in mass rallies once again last night against the government's legislative efforts to dramatically weaken the High Court of Justice and to secure political control over judicial appointments. Organizers say some 145,000 people were gathered in Tel Aviv alone, with another 83,000 scattered across other towns and cities across the country, making it the highest turnout to date on the 6th consecutive Saturday night of demonstrations. In Jerusalem, thousands more gathered outside of the president's residence, and they also held a moment of silence for the 3 Israelis killed in Friday afternoon's terror attack. Many are protesting proposed judicial reforms, and the preparation of the controversial proposals for the first reading are scheduled for tomorrow. And a bill, meanwhile, has to pass 3 readings to become a law, and the coalition has indicated that it seeks to blitz the legislation through the Knesset by April. And we're now being joined live in studio by political commentator Daniel Sheck, the former Israeli ambassador to France. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Emily.
Obviously, we've seen these weekly protests. The numbers are not dwindling. People are more determined than ever to try to save democracy, in their words. What do you have to say about the fact that the numbers are growing?
Well, I think there is a momentum here, and the numbers are growing. They also reflect a general feeling in the public, although not everybody who is uncomfortable with the planned reform takes to the streets. But several polls have shown that there is very little support in Israeli public opinion for the reform as it stands now. The polls vary between 25 to 35% of support. Mm-hmm. That means that many, many, many voters of Likud and of the right-wing partners in this coalition do not want this reform in the manner that it is presented and in the manner that it's pushed through a little bit aggressively, right, as you described.
Also, we've seen now people speaking out and voicing concern directly to the Knesset, the ex-Mossad chief, national security advisors, many people that are Likud and allies of right. Benjamin Netanyahu. Do you think that should be enough to maybe make them listen and think about a compromise?
For once, I have to say what I think doesn't matter. It matters if it matters to Netanyahu, because in the end, he's the one to decide. If he decides that pushback is too strong, both from the inside, with the high-tech industry, with financial issues, with the former judges of the Supreme Court, with the former heads of the Security Council in Israel, all sorts of, even former diplomats.
And Biden.
And there is pushback from the outside, from Israel's closest allies, from President Biden, from President Emmanuel Macron a week ago, etc. He will have to weigh the pros and cons. He will have to balance between Netanyahu, the politician, and Netanyahu, the statesman. Does he give in to internal coalition pressures from Yariv Levin and others who are pushing for this reform? Or does he fear that if he goes too far, there will be a price for Israel to pay, even internationally?
Now, does he have the ability, you think, to listen to reason? I think hearing from these different sources, I mean, everybody is concerned. Everybody wants a resilient Israel, and there's a concern. There's a concern how it's going to affect the economy, how it's going to affect national security, and the overall morale in this country. Is there an ability to listen to voices of reason?
To be honest, currently I don't think so. I don't see either side giving in this contest. Maybe it has to go a little further. Mm-hmm. And by the way, tomorrow the Knesset will be debating the first reading, or they're planning to debate the first reading of the laws. And there is a mass protest in front of the Knesset planned for tomorrow. There will be hundreds and thousands of cars coming from all over the country and buses to bring protesters, so that their voice will be heard while they are trying to debate this law. So wow. Nobody can say that they're not aware of the problematics of this reform.
Right. Thank you very much for your insight. Much appreciated, Daniel Sheck. Thank you. And we're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest from the earthquake in Turkey and Syria, where the death toll has now risen to 30,000.